Hello folks, Matthew Peterson here, Senior Trainer at Pragmatic Works, and if this is your first time getting to this YouTube channel here, definitely recommend subscribing to it because we post about 2 to 3 videos every week and we host a lot of live events as well. So what we're going to be covering in this is the first episode of a new series that I'm creating here, which is how to use Microsoft's OneNote program. I use this as a former educator and I use it all the time here at Pragmatic Works. And if you've never really opened up OneNote and explored around it, it's a fairly simple tool to use with a lot of great capabilities. Now, this series is mainly going to focus to start us off with the most common use cases of OneNote, not the other things that come with the educator stuff that you can do. And let's just get right into it and start off with our basics here of OneNote. Alright, so what I've done is gone down to my start icon down here, search for OneNote, and the one we're using is OneNote for Windows 10. There are some other versions of OneNote on your mobile device, the OneNote application, but this series is going to focus on the OneNote for Windows 10 program. And this is it. This is a OneNote. And so as you can see here, this is my own OneNote that I use here at Pragmatic Works. But what we're going to do is we're going to make our own notebook for this series here. So here's what OneNote can do for you. It can do a lot. It can do everything from putting in your own text. You can put in images, math equations, audio files, images. I think I already said images earlier. For Microsoft Forms and a whole lot more. And what's great is all of this is saved to the cloud. So if you're working on something now and you go on vacation and you want to log into your OneNote on your mobile device or on another on another computer, you can easily do that. So for this series, I'm going to create a OneNote just for it, and that's usually the first step, is how do you even get started with OneNote? So let's take a look at how easy it is to create a notebook. So in the upper left-hand corner here, we can see that this is my current notebook that I'm in, and if I hit this drop down right here, what we'll see are these are all the other notebooks that I currently have access to, because what we'll learn is you can also share your notebooks with other users as well. So what I would like to do is from here, I'm going to come on down and click on Add a Notebook. And when I click on Add a Notebook, the first thing it's going to ask me to do is give it a name. So I'm going to call this my YouTube series notebook. And then I'm going to come right on over here and hit Create. So this is going to take a few seconds here to create the notebook. And if you're going, well, what is all that stuff off to the side? Well, what we're going to learn that these are called sections. We also have pages. We're going to be able to put in section groupings. We're going to be able to do pages, sub-pages as well. And so once this notebook gets created, I'll take you for a little bit of a tour of the navigation here. All right, so my notebook has now been created. But before I start to make modifications there, let's take a look at these other little icons we have on the far left-hand corner. So what you're going to find out the capability of do is that you can search all of your notebooks or just one specific notebook for key text phrases, which I love. Great search and functionality. We're also going to learn how to put tags into our OneNote notebook as well later throughout this series. And then finally, underneath the search, you've got your recent here, and this will show you all the recent ones that you had currently been at, your recent notes. So now with that being said, what I'm ready to do is take this section and just show you how easy it is to delete a section. So I have a section, there's an untitled page here, but if I don't want this section, I can just do a right click and I can delete it. Or I can do a right click and a rename. For this case, instead of deleting it, now that we see that that's where your delete capability is, I'm going to do a rename here. And I'm going to rename this something like my miscellaneous. Typically that's usually one section I have in every single one of my notebooks. So I just called it miscellaneous. Hopefully I spelled it right there. But now what I want to do is make a little bit more formal one. But again, this is my miscellaneous. When I come over here to a page, I can say my notes for meeting, whatever it might be. Notice how it's logging today's date and today's time as well. So you can see I'm recording this here on the 30th of October at 7:15 in the morning. And then I add in, whatever text I want. And we're going to get more into the different text features that we have, images, the drawing and annotating capabilities. But again, this is just getting us started here. So what if I need another section? Well, down here we have an add section, but what might be a little bit hidden, and I didn't even realize it my first week or so using OneNote, is if I come on down here and I right click on add section, I can add in what's called a section grouping. So this will allow me to divide one section into subsections, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to come right down here to the bottom, right click on add section, and then put in a new section group. And for this new section group, let's just say I'm going to keep track of all of the training we do here at Pragmatic Works. So I'm just going to call it training. Now you'll notice there's a little drop down arrow here because this is really the main section, and we're going to add some subsections in. Now to add a subsection underneath of this, with my training still selected up here, I can come on over and click add section. And there we see, now I have a new section inside of here. And maybe I'll call this my Power Platform section. And then maybe I have another part of training where I focus on Power BI. And then maybe another one here where I focus on Azure. So very simple to add these little subsections. So it's just like a little hierarchy is really what we're creating. Now, if you don't like these colors, you can right click on a section and you can come on over here to a section color and we could choose. So maybe I'll go a little bit more of the purple here for the Power Platform. Power BI is a little bit more of an orangish color. And then maybe for Azure, maybe a little bit more of that blue color. So again, fairly simple. I think it's more like that blue. And there we go. And everything is being saved to the cloud as we're doing this. So there is no save button that you have to click on. And so now that I have these different sections here, maybe I'm now ready to start adding some notes to these sections. So let's say I'm going to come over here to Power BI. And in Power BI, what I'm currently working on is a Power BI bootcamp. So I might give a nice heading here of Power BI bootcamp. And then in here I would put all the major details about the camp. But now I want to start to organize the different pages underneath. So what I can do is if I come down here and do another add page, we can see that it's just simply called Untitled. Now if I want to change that page name, maybe this is where I'm going to work on my course outline. You know, I've got it here, but really this is kind of a subheading, so to speak, or sub-page of my main page. Well, just like we can do it with our sections, we can do it with our pages. So if I right click on course outline and I click on make subpage, now I've got my first subpage. Now from here, if I'm already on a subpage and I click on add page, notice how it already makes another subpage underneath. And maybe I'll do this where I'm going to flesh out all the demos that I want to do for the course. And then maybe there's another one where I want to work on all the labs that I want to do for my course. And what happens if I put things in the wrong order? Well, what's nice is you do get the ability to drag and drop. So maybe I want the labs first and the demos, or whatever the case might be. And then if I take labs here and I do a right click here, I can also make this another subpage. So if I click make subpage, now it's going to be under bootcamp, under demos, and then under labs. And if I realize I made a mistake, I just do a right click and I go, actually, you know what? Let me promote that subpage here. And what's nice is you can kind of get rid of all that extra noise. So if I had a lot of things going on with Power BI and I just wanted to focus on the Power BI Bootcamp, I could collapse all those big pages, which had the subpages underneath, and expand only the one that I'm interested in here. But hopefully at this point you were now able to make a notebook. If you've never made one before, you now know how you have sections on the left-hand side. We can have section groups as well. We can change the colors. We added some pages in. We learned how to make subpages. And in our next episode, we're going to go way further with this and start to talk about all those other capabilities that come with it. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next episode. So in this one, what we want to do is learn about some of the basic features of inserting text, drawing within the OneNote, inserting audio files, video files, tables, and quite a bit more. So stay tuned to see how we can get this done. All right, so the first thing in here, I'm just in any OneNote notebook of your own, and I'm in a section, and over here I've got my pages and I have my subpages. And the basic functionality of just adding text is just something simple, like we could go, I'll go to my course outline page here, and agenda, I don't know, agenda for developing course. And then as I go down, like you'll see, we get bulleting options, so I can put in bullet, we can say talk about labs, demonstrations, Q&A, whatever it might be. So up here you have all these options for formatting like you would see in your normal Word programs. So we have the highlight option, we can change the text around. So basically anything you could do in Microsoft Word, you pretty much have that ability to get it done here as well. One of the other things is if you right click on any one of your pieces of text, you will see those options from your ribbon now located in a quick little bar here. So we're going to be talking about some of these other options here of like making this a tag and how we can do searching and all of that, but that's going to come in a later episode. So again, you got your basic text options, but one of the other things that we have inside of OneNote is the ability to draw, which is really wonderful, especially if you are on a tablet device or you have a stylus for your laptop, PC, etc. And so a few different things that we can do in here. One, you have all these different types of drawing features. So if I come up here and I hit the plus sign, these are your different pens. So you can go with the pencil, you can go with the pen, or you can go with a highlighter. And I've got a few of these up here, as you can see. So my basic highlighter function here, I can come right on in, highlight through. I've got my pencil over here that, you know, draw whatever think we looks good. You do have undo capabilities in OneNote like our other programs, so I can just undo that last change. And then finally, you've got your pen feature, which is going to look, you know, just a little bit different here. Now these, when you open up your OneNote from the beginning, you're going to have some standard pens and pencils up here, but you can add more to it. And then once you add one in, if you want to modify it, the way that that's done is if you hit the little drop down next to it, you can choose what do you want the thickness to be. What kind of pre-built out of the box color would you like? Or do you want to go and start looking for more colors as well? So very easy to take your pens, pencils, highlighters and modify them to your liking. And then you can even drag the order of which ones you use, kind of like the most common. So one of the other nice things that I liked about this when I was a teacher is I could draw, I could write something. I have the worst handwriting. You're about to see that, even though, especially because I'm using a mouse here. So if I try to write my name here, so Matt, what we can do is up here, we can select basically the selection tool up here, or the lasso tool. And so once I select that, I can now draw around a selected picture image that I have drawn myself. And then from right here, I can say, take this and move it from ink to text. And when I do that, pretty neat. We now have Matt here. There's some shapes that come pre-built in here as well, where you can draw and make your nice shapes. I use this all the time for when I was doing graphing inside of the math classroom. So a few little things that we have just right here in our draw ribbon. We're going to talk about this math one a little bit later when I start to, towards my later episodes, go more of the great features that come with like class OneNote notebooks. Now, one of the other things we can do is we can insert images. So up here in the insert ribbon, if I want to insert an image, I can come right here over to pictures. So right up here at the top, I can insert a picture. Now, when you insert a picture, you have different options. You can either choose from one of your files on your PC or laptop device. You can go from camera, so you can actually use the integrated camera of your PC, your laptop, and take a picture of yourself or whatever is happening. And then you can also go out and find an image from online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with an online picture here. So I'm going to come on over, click online. This is going to use the Bing search for images here. As you can see, it's powered by Bing. And then just type in something you want to see. So like go with the type of dog I've got, a golden retriever here. We'll see what comes up. All right, I like that one right here. And then bingo. It's now added right on into the actual page itself. And then you can do things like change the size, the location. So maybe up here, I want the picture to be first. Now what you'll notice is this text is in a text box or like a container. So if I take the container, once I get those 4 arrows, I can now move that to a different location. Now the one thing that does not move is the highlight itself. That's just another object, a layer on the page. But then you can take that object and then you can drag it over here as well if you would like to. And so I'm going to just take this picture and put it right up here, you know, at the top. Now, one of the things that I did not really see natively inside of the OneNote program at first until I saw someone else's OneNote, one of my colleagues, as I said, how are you seeing these little graphics next to your page names over here? Like, how is that done? Do I need to come over, right click and like add a graphic to it? And then they gave me a great trick, which I want to show you here. So it's kind of hidden, But if you come up to the upper right hand corner of your OneNote and you go into your settings, so I just hit the three dots and now I'm going to hit settings here. And in the settings, if you go over here to options, there's quite a few options to look at, and we're going to talk more about these options in future episodes. But the one that I want to show you right here is this enable page previews. So right now it's off, and it's off by default when you provision your OneNote. But if you turn this on, now notice how we're actually seeing the little preview of the text right here next to it. So some people will put in, they'll put in their own little graphics rather than pictures. They'll also put little stickers in instead. And if you have that as the very first thing underneath, kind of a visual cue here. And you can also start to see the text. So it's going to do the first image it sees and then the first text box with just a little bit of the information there from it. Now, one of the other things that we can insert into our OneNote notebook is we can insert audio files. So if you come up to your insert ribbon and you choose audio, from here you would allow it to access your microphone, and then from here you can start to record audio if you want to. And so you can record, you can stop, you can play, you can bring in your own audio files as well. As you can see right now, it's recording me. So if I hit stop here, that recording is now saved. And so this is really great, again, for when you have collaboration with your OneNote, or you want to give yourself a quick note and you don't want to actually write it down. So we're going to learn about how we share OneNotes with others. Are they view-only people? Can they collaborate with us? I used this feature a lot when I was a former teacher. So when I would put down questions of here's what I need you to answer, I'd give them, if I thought the question, maybe they need a few more details, I would say, hey, don't forget when doing this order of operations problem to show each and every step underneath. So it's another little feature that we have inside of OneNote. And the last one that we're going to wrap up for today in this episode is how you can insert videos for your users. So actually there's two more things. One is a table. So let me come right over here. We go to insert table. We choose our table size. So maybe I want it to be 2 by 3. And then maybe I want to put like the name of the student, maybe like their favorite animal, and then I can just start, logging this in. So I can say Jack is a dog, I can say Layla is a lizard, and then if I need more, I just hit return and we can add more rows to it. And if you right click on your table and go to your table settings, this is where you can insert rows above, delete your rows, delete columns, and then finally you can just delete the table if you want to as well. And then you can format this in here as well. You can see your format options. And now the last thing that I'm going to show here is how to insert a video. So right up here, and we're going to talk about how to insert our own files in our next course or our next episode. But if I want to go with an online video, I can just select online video. And then from here, I can put in a website of where this one is at. So typically a lot of people love to use YouTube. So we love to use YouTube here as well. And then I'll hit OK. And what this does is, one, it gives them a link to go out to the YouTube channel if they want to, but they can also just come right here and play it right from the beginning. And so as you can see, it'll start to play here. And then you can make this video, they can go directly to it from YouTube outside. If I click here, I can make the video image larger inside of here as well. So again, this is episode 2, putting in some of the basic things that you're probably going to want to use right off the rip when you start to use OneNote. But in this video about OneNote, what I want to do is continue on our discussion that we started in episodes 1 and 2. And I want to talk about how do you insert files, the different options that you have for inserting files into your OneNote, doing a little bit of math equations, which is awesome because I used to be a former algebra teacher, as well as what you get with the view ribbon and things to think about in terms of setting templates up for your OneNote, the page designs and all of that. So without any further ado, let's just get on into it. Alright, so as you can see, I'm in the OneNote that I created about 2 episodes earlier, and what I'm going to do is just go to one of my new pages over here in my section, and the first thing I want to show is how do you insert a file and the different things to think about. So as we see up here in the upper left hand corner in our insert ribbon, we have the insert file option. Now when I click on insert file, we can go point to one of our files, so I'm going to point to this Peterson Peso certificate. And now when I click on open, it's going to give me some options. Now these options here are a few things to consider. So if you do an upload to OneDrive and insert link, you will have a OneDrive folder dedicated to your OneNote uploads. And so what that means is when you put this in here and you start to make changes to this file in the OneNote, it will make and save those changes into that OneDrive folder. Your other option is the one beneath it here, is insert as an attachment. This is just going to give a link for the download to occur, and then your users can go download the file, save it, and then do whatever they want with it. And then finally, you also have the insert as printout, which is going to convert what you've got on over into a PDF. So those are the three things to consider. So the one that I'm going to show here today, to not make it a super lengthy video here, is I'm going to go to that insert as a printout. So now that I go to insert as printout, what we'll see here is it's going to convert this into a PDF, and there it is. Now, it's great. We can move it around if we want to, because it goes in this little box here. So we can go, we want to move it over here. We also have a link to that printout. But one thing that I typically like to do, especially like when I want to start to make notes on it, is I will do a right click on the printout itself, and then I'll do set picture as background. And when I do set picture as background, now I get the full annotation capabilities. So I can start to, write whatever I want, and then I can come over to my draw ribbon. I can start to annotate things and say, this is really important, or whatever the case might be. So those are a few things to consider. So you can either just insert it as the attachment, upload it to OneDrive. So when you make changes, it makes changes in your OneDrive folder, as well as just doing the insert as the background here. Now, the next thing I want to show, really close to heart here, is all about the math. So this is a pretty neat thing here that you can do, especially if you have children. They might really like this as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just write a little math equation. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do something like 2/3 plus, I'm awful with drawing with just my mouse here, 2/3 plus 4/5. Now, if I come on over to my selector tool from the draw ribbon, so that lasso select tool, and then I select my math equation here. Once I select it in this draw ribbon, I can go to the math section. And when I click on the math section, it's going to give me some options. So it says, it looks like 2/3 plus 4/5. That 3 doesn't look like it's matching quite right. So let's see if it fixes it. So if I come up here and go to fix it, it says change the part of the equation that you want to fix. So I want to change this part because I don't think it picked up my 3 quite right. And so when I come on over, it gives me some options. Now, if my options at this point weren't really what I wanted, I would need to go and erase that part of it and then redraw it in, circle it again, and then go back to insert to math. But it's got a lot of bit of intuitiveness here to it. So I'm going to say, what I really wanted was that 3. So I'm going to change it to that 3, and then I'm going to say done here. And now I get to select my action. And they have a few different things. Factoring, which will take the final answer and will put it into factored form. We've got rounding. We can find the floors and the ceilings, so the minimums and the maximums. And we can just go to the straight evaluate, which I'm going to go to the evaluate section. And it says it evaluates to about 22/15, not about, exactly 22/15, which is approximately that decimal of 1.46 repeating. Now, what's also really cool, which I really enjoy, and I used this when I was a former school teacher, is if I come over here to show steps, and I click on solution steps, it will now start to give the steps of how did we actually get to that answer. So it does a lot of math things, so feel free to explore it. It's just a nice little calculator that you can just write it down, especially if you have a stylus, and just circle it and say, do the math for me. And you've got a built-in calculator right into your OneNote. Now, one of the other things that I want to showcase here is I'm going to come back. So I'm going to close this out for now. And I'm going to come back up to one of my other pages called my course outline that I used in my earlier episodes. Now, from your view ribbon in the upper left-hand corner, we've got quite a few things here. And I'm going to point out a few of these and save a few others for another episode down the road. One of them is this new window option, and I really kind of didn't even recognize this one. I've used OneNote quite extensively, but my eyes just kind of glanced over it. So you can have multiple OneNote notebooks, whether they're yours that you have or they're others that have been shared with you, and you collaborate with someone else, or you are an editor with them, a co-owner, which we'll be talking about in one of our future episodes. But when you hit this new window option up here at the top, This allows you to open up simply a new instance of OneNote. So you can have multiple notebooks open at the same time. So I'm going to close this out, show that there. You've got your very simple, you want to zoom in on the page, you want to zoom out on the page. If you hit the 100% here, it's going to zoom to the 100%, which is what it was at currently. So if I come up here, click it again, pretty self-explanatory. And then you also have the page width. So when you go to page width, what this is really beneficial for, especially as a former teacher, is I would have some students that were all part of the same OneNote notebook, and we would do collaborative work together where we'd work on math problems. And sometimes they would, keep scrolling to the right to keep adding more things. If I want to see all the work at once, and I didn't want to have to scroll left and right, I would go to that fit to page here. All right, so that's a few things that we have up here. We're going to talk about a few more. The next thing that I want to talk about is the page color itself. So I'm going to come on down here. I'm just going to make a new page. And if I come up here to the top and I choose page color, I can choose one of these colors here, or I can come on over and pick a certain, color ribbon idea. Maybe I'll go with this blue option here. And now I've got a page color set to blue. And maybe I want some actual, grid marks inside of here. I use this a lot. Again, I know I keep saying it, but as a former math teacher, we loved to graph in the math class. So I would go with this large grid, and then I could start to do the XY coordinate plane on here. Now, when you find one of these and you're like, hey, this is what I want all of my pages to look like inside of this section, you can right click, and then if you come on down, you can say set as the default template. So I click on set as default template, and I now add a new page. Notice how this page now has the same effect. Now, if I come on over into my Power Platform subsection and I say add page, notice it doesn't do that. So for right now, it's going to keep that same page just for that section itself where I was declaring it in. So we got a few things going on. So we know about rule lines. We know about how we can set up our page color. And the next thing that I want to showcase here is how you can make tags, which I think are really beneficial. So I'm going to actually, I'm going to come over here. I don't really like this blue outline. Let me come on over into my Power Platform section. I'm going to, that's the one thing when you do that lasso select, it keeps that selected for you. So if I come back up to draw and I go back to my selector tool, I can call this, I'm going to call this my tag section. So right over here, let's say I make a note to myself, study for the PL 300 exam, which we actually have a course on that. And I want to, make sure I can easily come back to this because I might have lots of sections, subsections, and pages, and I want to easily find certain notes for myself. Well, what I can do is if I go over to the home section, you have in this drop down right here all these different tags. These are the standard tags that come with every OneNote, but you can also come on over and create a new tag for yourself as well. So you give your tag a name, you choose an icon for it, and whatever. So I'll call this my my YouTube tag. So I'll go YouTube tag, and I'll pick an icon over here. I'll give it the nice little light sign, and I'll hit create. So my tag was now created successfully. So I'm going to close out of the tag over here. And then so as I'm writing in my notes, and I go, you know what? I want to tag this for myself. I can come up to my top ribbon here from my home section, and I can say, this is my YouTube tag. So I've got now a tag inside of this page. Now, how is that beneficial for me other than just seeing this little icon here? Well, anytime I want to open up my OneNote and I go to my search area, I can now start to search for my different tags here. So they only show me a few to begin with right at the top, but I know that I have a YouTube tag. And if I search for that YouTube tag, I gotta go to my tags area. And now when I search for it as well, I can search for the tag in just the notebook I have open, just in my section, just the page itself, or I can search for it in all of my notebooks. So if I want to search for in all of my notebooks, because I have quite a few, I go there. If I want to just search for the notebook that I currently have open, then I would say only search for it in my current notebook called the YouTube series. And then when I click on that tag, it would take me directly to that page. And just to prove that to you, let me go to a completely separate page. So I'm on this random one over here again. I come over to my search. I want to search for my tags. I click on it, and notice how it takes me directly to that tag that we have in there. So I think tags are really beneficial. You also have just your regular search capabilities, where if you want to search all of your pages for certain keywords, so if I search for example, Power Apps, now I don't see anything in here for my current notebook on YouTube series, but if I go to all notebooks and I search for Power Pages, or Power Apps, you can see that there's tons of references where I've written the word Power Apps down. So tags I really like because it's a nice little quick bulleted list to find those. And then the last thing that I want to show here is, what if you have a OneNote and you want to basically take what you got and you just want to simply print it out? Well, in order to do that, it's kind of hidden, because normally in our other programs we have the file ribbon, we click on print, or we have a little print icon. This one you have to know where to go, and where we go to do that is up here in the upper right hand corner. We can click on the settings and more, and then we go over here and click on print. And now when we click on print, we have different options. We can print our current page to a PDF. We can go into our different printer options. If you have Snagit, you can do that as well. You choose your orientation, which pages to pick from, or do you want the whole notebook, or do you want a certain subgroup or the current section? And then you also have the scaling. Do you want it to be the actual size, or do you want to fit whatever you've got inside of the page here? So what I want to do is continue my series on OneNote. We've talked a lot about in our OneNote series about how to create a OneNote, how do you add in files, math equations, and a whole lot more. And the focus of this episode is to go into how can you password protect some of your different pages and sections if you want to share your OneNote out with others. How can you get into collaboration, and just some of the more management side of things from the OneNote perspective. So without any further ado, let's take a dive in and take a look. Up in the upper left hand corner, and you hit the drop down, this is going to show you your different notebooks that you have. Now from here you can do nicknamings of your notebook. So when you share a notebook or there's multi-collaboration with it, it's going to have the official name. But if someone has shared a notebook with you and it's got like maybe a class code or course code or whatever it might be, just by doing a simple right click you can do a nicknaming of your notebook, and that only shows to you, and your nickname won't show to anyone else who has access to the notebook itself. From here, the other things that you can do, very simple, is just change the colors of your notebooks. So again, you can see I've got quite a few notebooks that I'm a part of, so by putting those nice colors there can help me out. Now what I want to show next is, let's say I go into my notebook here, my YouTube series. We're going to talk about how we share our notebooks with other users in a few moments. But let's say I share my notebook, but there's a certain section that I don't want them to have access to. Well, if I come over here like to my Power BI section, see in my other videos we talked about how to change the backgrounds and everything. But if I do a right click here, what I can do is come on down and move into the password protection area. So when I click on password protection, I can add myself a password. So let's say I click on for my Power BI that you are going to need a password to use. So I'm just going to put in a nice password here. I'll hit OK. And now we can see that we have password protection. Now, if you are in one of your password protected parts of your notebook and you kind of leave it not static, but you kind of, you don't do any work in it for a few moments, it will automatically just go back to locked and you have to put that password in again. So it's great to know about that password protection, because sometimes you want to share a notebook for collaboration, but there's a certain area of it that you want it to be off limits. So creating those passwords can be really beneficial for you. So whenever we are making changes to our OneNote notebook, you can see up here, right now, this is going to be my page sync status. And so if I click on this sync status, right now it says OneNote can't sync your notes right now. We'll keep trying. What this means is when you are making changes, because this is done in the cloud, all of your changes are currently being saved. Now, if your network connectivity, whether you're offline or you're having some network issues, your changes will be saved and then they will push through once you get an official network connection there. So this is how you can always just work on your OneNote. Maybe you're at a hotel that doesn't have internet, you're adding notes to it, you don't want those notes to be gone, we don't have a save button. The next time you have that network connectivity, all of those changes will then be synced to your notebook. So if you ever want to manually sync, so you think, hey, maybe there's just a little bit of an issue, if you come over and you click on your notebook, you can go sync. So I did a right click on my notebook, and I can either say sync this notebook, or maybe I want to sync all of my notebooks. So if I click on sync this notebook, see right now I'm having network connectivity issues, which is great for this video. Oh, and there it goes. So now my network picked back up. Now I can see the cloud with the check mark, and I now know that my changes have been saved to the OneNote itself. All right, so the next thing I want to show in here is how do you share and what are the different options for sharing. So in the upper right hand corner of your screen, you've got your share icon. And again, I'm using the OneNote for Windows 10 platform for this. So when I click on share, I'm going to get a little window here, and it says, all right, you're in your YouTube series notebook. Who would you like to share this with? And so I can start putting in, for example, I can start putting in people at my organization. So I can share this here with Allison. I can give a message to Allison saying, hey, here's the notebook I want to share with you. So the link to the notebook will be in the email, or I could just simply copy the link at this point. And right now, the way that this is set up is if I click anyone with link can edit, this is where I can change the settings. So I can either share it with anyone, and it does not require a sign-in, so no authentication. I can share it with just the people at Pragmatic Work, so share it all to the whole organization. I can go and do any updates with the resharing. So if I shared it with somebody and they lost the link to the notebook and I wanted to give them that link again, I could easily come back over here to go people with existing access. And then I also have just people I choose. So this is me setting up the link. Is it going to be for anyone, people in the work, if I'm updating people with existing access, or people that I choose? Now, the most important part is the more settings option here. So when I do people you choose, the more settings, this is where you want to be really, really careful. It's got me in the past. By default, it starts off as can edit. So a lot of times when you share a notebook, it is for that collaboration piece, but sometimes you just want them to have it as reference material. So for example, some of my OneNotes that I've shared with other trainers here at Pragmatic Works was only for reference for them. You know, they're new to the job. I've got all these notes for classes, things that they should know about, but I don't want them to actually change my notes. So I would change that over to only can view. So just be very cognizant of that it defaults there over to your can edit. So if I come back over here and I choose people you choose, and I'm going to put can view only, and then I hit apply. So now I can go right here and click on send. And now Allison is only someone who can view this notebook. And so she'll get the link, she opens it, and then we'll add that notebook to her OneNote. So again, like you can see over here, I've got quite a few other notebooks. Like Austin has shared his with me, Jonathan has shared, and so on and so forth. Now, sometimes you might just want to send a copy of your page. So if I wanted to send this course outline page here, when I come over to here and hit share, I can say, you know what, I just want to send a copy of my page. So I click send copy of page. It's going to say, well, who would you like to share this copy of a page with? And so I can start to search through. I can look for more people if I want to, which I don't want to actually send a copy of any pages here today. But what the copy of the page is, it's just simply that. It's a copy of the page. So it is static. So if I send this copy of a page over to like Nate, and then 20 minutes later I come into the course outline page, I make changes, he will not see those changes because it is just a copy and a paste, so to speak. But now what we're ready to do is discuss how we can integrate OneNote inside of our teams and talk about the collaboration, how people can edit, view, and some of the other features that we get with it. So if you haven't used OneNote inside of Teams, now's the time to start learning. So let's check it out. All right, so as you can see here, I have made a team inside of Teams called OneNote in Teams. I've added 2 different members to it. I'm the owner of the team, and I've added another user that I'll show here in a second. But when you create a team, one of the things that you get automatically is a OneNote default notebook. So it automatically comes with your team here underneath your notes section. And from here, you know, I can start to make some changes. So I've got a general section, and I can just put a nice little page in here. Hello. This is my general section. All right, and then if I want to add another section inside of here, I can come on down, you know, add a section. Maybe I'll call this my product launch section. There's a reason why I'm doing this here. So I'm just going to add a new section right in here called product launch. So one of the things that we can do with this is when our users come into Teams, how do they know about the OneNote notebook? So for example, here's my other person that I've added to this team. And this person, when they come in, if they know to go to the general section and they click on notes up here, they are going to see the OneNote notebook. And what we'll see right here is all the changes I made on that other section. Now, sometimes that might not be obvious enough for your user. So one thing we can do is we can add a tab to the top of our team. So I'm the team owner over here, so I'm going to do it over on this side. So I'm going to come down over to my product launch channel. And on my product launch channel, up here at the top, I'm going to go, you know what, let's make it even more explicit. So I'm going to click on add a tab. And from the tab, I'm going to add in a OneNote tab. Even though I know the notes was already there, I'm trying to make this really explicit for my new members to the team who might not have as much experience. So I'll choose OneNote, and it's going to start going out to fetch all my notebooks. And so here's my OneNote and Teams notebook. Now I could pin the whole notebook up here to the top, but sometimes if you have lots of channels and maybe certain users, a part of certain channels, want to see certain sections of the notebook and you're trying to guide them to the right area, you can just put in a section instead. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to put in a section instead. So I'm going to come on down and just choose my product launch. And then I'll click on save. And now what we see is when we come to product launch and we go to our tab, it takes us directly to the product launch section. And then from here we can make, a new page. Then we can say this is product launch information, whatever it might be. And so now we can have collaboration. And again, they're still going to have their original notes tab up here at the top if they want that to be done. Now, one of the other neat things that we can do with our OneNote notebooks, and not just in Teams, but in OneNote in general, is if we go to the insert ribbon, we can also put in meeting notes. So that's right up here called our meeting details. Now, I'm using some demo accounts here, so I can't show it on this side, but I'll show it on my original OneNote over here that I have linked into my Office account. So this is just one of the OneNotes I'd worked on in the other YouTube series that I've been doing. And if I click on meeting details, what you'll notice is, and you might be asked to sign in. I've already signed into my Office account. And like I see here, today's meeting app in a day, Eastern time. So you know what, I click on it. It puts in the meeting date, the location, and now we can start to collaborate. Now this is just my OneNote notebook, but if I'd shared it with others, we could. But what you get in terms of Teams is when you have like a meeting, you can put a page in for these meeting details. And then as the meeting is taking place, all of our users can start to come in and start taking notes, about the individual meeting. So it's a nice little feature that we have there that I definitely wanted to showcase to you. Now, inside of your team, you're not just limited to that default notebook that has come with it. So in fact, what I'm going to show here is how we can make another notebook. So I'm going to come back to, my OneNote in Teams. It doesn't really matter what channel I'm on here. And you know what? Let me actually just make a new channel just to keep this a little bit separate. I'm going to call this my new notebook channel. And then I'm going to add it over here. And then once this channel is added in, I'm going to add a notebook. And then what I'm going to get into at this point is talking about some of the privileges that come with the notebook. Sometimes you might want every single person in your team to be able to edit and view your notebook. Sometimes you might want only certain people just to view that notebook. And it's kind of a little bit tricky to figure out where that actually is done. So I want to make sure I get this in the video here for you. So what I'm going to do is come up to the top and I'm going to add in a new notebook. So I'm going to come up here, going to add a tab. I'm going to search for OneNote again. This time I'm going to create a new notebook. And I'm going to call this I'll call this my security notebook, because that's what I really want to discuss here. So I'm going to call this my security notebook. And then I'm going to hit save. It's going to set up my new tab with that new notebook. And here is the new notebook. And I'll actually just put in a page here. We'll call this the security page. So what will happen now, if I come back over to my other user who's a part of this team, we can come on in, we can see that we have the new notebook channel that I just created. Here is the security notebook. And what you can see at this moment in time, this user now automatically auto access to edit and view the notebook. That's typically what we want. We're in a team, we're working together. But what if we want to set up some different types of permissions? Or we want to share this notebook with people outside of our team as well. So I'm going to come back on over because I'm the owner of this notebook on this account. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the top here. You can expand the tab out if you want to. So expanding it just makes it, a little bit bigger here. Then you can collapse it here as well. Also to note, when you're in your Teams notebook, in the Teams application, if you click on File, you can open it up in your desktop application as well. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to open it up because I don't want to open it up in my Pragmatic Works notebook. So I'm actually just going to open it in the web browser. And this is where we're going to talk about how we can set up our sharing permissions here. All right, so I've opened it up OneNote online here. And over here, I'm just going to go down to my notebooks, and here is my security notebook. So I'm going to open it up here, going to open it up into the new tab. And what I want to start off with here is the permissions to this. So up here in the upper right-hand corner, when I go to my share icon, and I come on over to my manage access, because this is a Teams notebook, if I come on over to groups, what we can see is what do we want our members to be able to do with this notebook. Right now, by default, it is set to edit. So as we saw earlier with my other account, I was able to come in and, make the changes as this lab admin 2. However, if I change this from can edit and I come on over and say, not edit, I'm going to change it to can view, and I now hit apply. So it says your changes have been saved. And within just a few seconds, and the magic of speeding this up through editing, we'll see that my other lab admin user can no longer edit. All right, so I'm back in over here to lab admin 2. My little pop-up went away, but it actually came up with a little window over here that says you do not have permissions to edit at this point. And as I see, I'm clicking around, I can't do anything with it. So that part's great because maybe you want to take a notebook and you just want to share your notes with other users so that they can see them, but you don't want them modifying anything. Now, the other question becomes, well, what if we have a notebook? We have 20 people in the team, and 10 of those people, we want them to be able to edit and collaborate with us, but the other 10, they're really just the viewers of it. Well, it was kind of hard there because it said only members can edit or can view, but how can I make it a little bit more granular? Well, let's see how we can get that done here. So what I'm going to do is go back into me as the owner, so back over to my lab admin 1 account. And then from here, I'm going to go back to share, and I'm going to share my entire notebook. Now, this is how I can share my notebook with users that are outside of this team as well. The only way they can access it is through their OneNote app and not in the team because they're not a team member. But let's say lab admin 2, he is supposed to, so I have, again, 20 lab admin users, and all of them are only supposed to view except for lab admin 2. Well, what I can do is I can share this directly with lab admin 2. And then I can choose that lab admin 2 can edit. So now lab admin 2 technically has 2 security roles. He's the team member with only view privileges, but now I'm actually sharing it separately with him or her, and I'm giving edit privileges. So it's going to combine those 2 privileges together. So I'm going to click on send here, and then in just a few moments, going to bring back over the lab admin 2, and we'll now see that lab admin 2 now has full edit rights of the notebook. All right, now that I'm back over here, take a look. Now that it has changed on over, and now my lab admin 2 can once again make changes to the notebook. So this is just something that you can do and start changing that granular control security, sharing with just your team members, view and edit, or certain team members are only view, but these ones can edit, and that's how it gets done. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.